Justice League?
The one that hit theaters.
No, I think that all of us DC directors tossed that out just as much as the fans did.
Hey guys, it's Hannah Solek, the head of video here at Cinema Blend. Of course, with Sean O'Connell, our managing editor and author of the upcoming book, Release the Snyder Cut. And he is one of the very, very lucky people who has already seen Wonder Woman 1984. Sean, was it good?
Oh, it's great. Yeah, it's really good. And it's so different than what I expected, which is what's really exciting about it. I thought that it had the opportunity to just kind of play it safe and do what worked in the first movie. And it does it. It strikes out in a lot of different directions and has a ton of really great surprises that have not been ruined in the marketing and will not be ruined here in this video.
I'm both frightened and aroused.
Yes, we're going to keep it as spoiler-free as possible because I haven't seen Wonder Woman 1984 and I will probably murder Sean if he spoils me.
You know that if she kills you, we'll cover for her.
Fair enough.
So what we're going to talk about in this video is just how Wonder Woman 1984 connects to the larger DCEU, and then also some things that are more specific about Zack's actual film. So we're going to kind of start broad, and then we'll get more specific as we go. And there's also, just to tease it out here so you stick around, a very, very, very intriguing soundbite from Patty Jenkins that Sean got during an interview for the Real Blend podcast. And that's all I'm going to say for now, because we'll get into it a little bit later.
Oh, you're not even going to tell them what it's about?
I didn't know. They can wait. We're going to get into it in like 10 minutes.
Right,
They'll be fine.
Okay, fine. Sounds good.
They're probably just going to skip ahead in the video, but whatever.
What can I say? I'm not that exciting.
So Sean, just to start, can you kind of just give a broad overview of how Wonder Woman 1984 just connects or doesn't connect to what we've seen so far in the DCEU?
Yes, definitely. Because for this reason, this movie is fascinating in the fact that when it was going through its pre-production and production stage, it was still part of this existing DCEU, that Patty Jenkins was collaborating with Zack Snyder and James Wan and the other filmmakers who were making things that were part of what they thought was going to contend with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But because of the delays that Wonder Woman 1984 has faced, and also because of everything that we've been discussing with what happened to Zack's version of Justice League and Joss's version, DC has essentially gone out on their own and broken these properties apart so that they can almost operate completely separated from each other. And it doesn't mean that we won't see some type of crossover at some point down the line, but I think going forward, the movies like Aquaman and however Patty decides to continue the Wonder Woman franchise, and The Flash even still too, although that's probably going to have some crossover, they won't be as reliant on each other, and Wonder Woman 1984 is kind of like that. It's not as reliant on everything that we've seen before. Patty probably lucked into a thing where she decided to set it in the 80s, so it was already going to be before most of everything that we've been seeing happening in Man of Steel and BVS. It does build off of what happened in Wonder Woman, though really just like the final minutes of Wonder Woman, because that is such a period piece. It's set during World War I, that it would be unusual to sort of bridge from there. And I find it strange that the movie jumps that far ahead, because you would assume that there's a lot of story that you could tell about what Diana had been doing up till that point. And I will say, this doesn't give anything away, it's not like the movie addresses the stuff that she's been doing, although it does hint or at least suggest that she has been doing some heroic things here and there. Like she didn't shelve the Wonder Woman identity forever. She just didn't need to fully bring it out because there wasn't, we assume, a global threat of the kind that she's finding with Maxwell Lord.
So World War II just didn't happen?
Yes. Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it.
Sorry, not to bring that up again. But.
So there aren't a lot of really direct connections to other films in the DCEU. And part of that, I think, is a little bit by design, because it's a prequel, because it's set in the 80s. But also, I think that this is going to be the way going forward, that these films can tell. I think Patty really sees this as connected to her original film and stuff that Zack has done, but it doesn't build off of what else is going on in the DCU right now.
So I have a question. So in BVS, there's some sort of line that alludes to the fact, and I'll cut it in, but where Wonder Woman's like,
100 years ago, I walked away from mankind.
from a century of horrors. Man made a world where standing together is impossible.
Again, without spoiling, but does that line make more sense now that you've seen Wonder Woman 1984, or is it still a little bit like,
Yes, it does, but
Okay.
it's still murky.
okay.
It is definitely murky on the timeline, because it does, in a way, paint Diana a little bit wishy-washy, a little bit, in that, you know, Steve is a driving emotional motivator for her. And there are moments in this film that will cement even more why he's an emotional motivator for her. But it does then, you do point to gaps in the timeline where you will say, okay, then where were you during all this time?
Right.
And some of that, I think, comes from a lack of one storyteller's vision going all the way through. Because one of the things that Patty did say to us on the Real Blend interview is that while she really tried to respect what Zack was doing with the character, she also needed to do her own thing. She wanted to really do her own story and hit on beats that she wanted to hit on. And I think to some way they contradict that message of when Diana should get involved, how often she should get involved. So it's moved forward in 1984, but in ways that I need you guys to discover on your own.
That's all I'm at liberty to...
Okay, interesting. So after seeing 1984, does that kind of change your perception of anything that you think could happen with Diana in Zack Snyder's Justice League? Loaded question, I know, no spoilers.
Yeah, that's a great question. The sequel does this. If the first Wonder Woman was truly an origin story of Diana coming to terms with, I'm an Amazonian, but there's a whole world out there. This sequel, in ways that I won't elaborate, evolves her as a hero. So that when we get to the Snyder Cut that's coming to HBO Max, she's truly much further down the path. There are references in like BVS, and I'm only going to reference BVS, where you get the impression that she is a badass warrior, right? That she's seen some shit. And
She's
by the end of
more so.
by the end of Wonder Woman, she hadn't really seen some shit, you know, like she fought Ares and, you know, she went through a couple of conflicts via World War One.
I'm sorry, the love of her life died right before her eyes. She's seen some shit.
For sure, that is significant. But I mean, like, you know, she's staring down Doomsday and smirking, you know, like she's got to have some confidence in battle. And I think 1984 fills in some of those cracks. Let's put it that way. Okay. So that by the time we get to her in a Snyder Cut, she's more developed. But what's interesting about that is that if Zack was able to deliver his Justice League along the timeline when he was supposed to, it would have arrived before this,
right?
In 2017. So you would have had this confident, battle-tested version of Wonder Woman in Zack's Justice League, and then you would have had to flash forward in Patty's prequel. So that's where I'm kind of hinting at the fact that, yes, these films kind of build off of each other, but in a way, because of the way that they were presented on the initial timeline, they don't. And then because that initial timeline was so messed as it is, like here you're putting a contemporary Wonder Woman in Justice League in 2017 and then a 1984 one in 2019 when that was supposed to come out, then COVID comes along and we don't see anything until the tail end of 2020 when you're getting the prequel, and then Zack's movie's coming in 2021. It's like they threw the whole DCEU timeline in a blender.
Back Wonder Woman, I'm okay with it.
I really like her.
So I want to get more into your Real Blend interview. And for those who don't know, Sean is on a podcast, Cinema Blend's movies podcast called Real Blend with Jake Hamilton of Fox 32 Chicago and Kevin McCarthy of Fox 5 in DC. And they recently got the opportunity to interview Patty Jenkins. And I will link to that interview in this video so you can go watch it. It's a fantastic interview, so please go do that. But
thank you.
One specific thing I want to zero in on is you asked her about Wonder Woman's arc, and I guess I'll just cut to it because I'm not going to paraphrase this well. So I'll cut to your question. But Sean, do you kind of want to set up anything, or do you want me to just let this play out and we kind of talk about it?
I was stunned at how candid she was. You don't get a chance to really talk to the other filmmakers who were part of that DC collective because there weren't a lot of them at that point. Like when Zack was putting together the DC house that Zack built, Flash was going through a number of different director changes at that point. Ben was gonna direct his Batman film, but he hasn't come back around to that. So Patty's really the only one who has stayed consistent, because I'm not sure that even James Wan, though he was probably doing pre-production on Aquaman, he wasn't really part of this. So what I just wanted to sort of ask Patty is, here she's getting an opportunity to continue developing a character who then has an adventure in another movie that most fans don't appreciate. And I wanted to ask her if she felt compelled to have to either reference or take from or build off of Diana's appearance in the theatrical cut in Justice League. And here's her answer, which I thought was phenomenal. When you were making the movie initially, you were part of, and the sequel was supposed to be part of this DCU when it was a connected universe.
Yeah.
And it feels like DC has gone in a way where you've been able to sort of branch apart and be separate. But as soon as I posted my review, I got a ton of messages from people who were like, how does it connect? You know, where does it weave in to Justice League and the movies that came before it?
Yeah.
Knowing what happened on Justice League, did you even go back and take a look at the theatrical cut to see how Gal was handled in that to
No.
make this match at all? Or do you really just think it's in universe with yours?
The Justice League?
The one that hit theaters.
No, I think that all of us DC directors tossed that out just as much as the fans did. But also I felt that version contradicted my first movie in many ways, and this current movie, which I was already in production on. So
Right.
then what are you going to do? I was like, you would have to play ball in both directions in order for that to work. So the only thing I've done and tried to always do is when I knew when Zack was doing Justice League, sort of where she ends up. And so I always tried, like, I didn't change her suit because I never want to contradict. I don't want to contradict his films, you know, but yet I have to have my own films, and he's been very supportive of that. And so I think that that Justice League was kind of an outlier, because I don't know, they were trying to turn one thing into kind of another. And so then it becomes like, I don't recognize half these characters. I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, it must have been strange to see a character who you helped envision and bring to life. You know, well, I don't know if you even saw it, but it was unusual. It was unusual.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard.
Something that I thought was just so striking about that answer, and Sean, I don't know how you feel about this, but sometimes I feel like we're definitely in a bubble of just like, you know, hating on Justice League. And I think to myself, like, are we maybe just like overstating things a little bit? But then hearing her answer, I was like, no, like these characters were ruined in Justice League. So it's very sobering almost, and almost kind of surreal to like hear her say that.
And heartbreaking. I mean, it's heartbreaking at the end where she says like it was really hard to sit through and watch. These directors invest years of their lives in these projects, which to me a little bit diminishes the amount of fan speculation and fan casting of how quickly people on social media in particular are just quick to dismiss, like, this person doesn't do this or this person doesn't know that. Like, these people invest years of their lives in telling these stories. And when something like Justice League comes around and negates it, like the part that shocked me was when Patty was like, that version contradicts not just what I had done in the first Wonder Woman movie, but what I was planning to do. That's stunning to me. Like I appreciate her honesty more than anything else. That's what I really, really admire about her, is that she didn't pull any punches. Now, the part you and I were discussing prior to this is the bit that I don't understand, is then her collaborations with Jeff Johns.
Yeah.
Because Jeff Johns gets a lot of flack from the people in the fan base for implementing the changes, theoretically, that took place in Justice League. But Patty co-wrote 1984 with Jeff Johns, and in our Real Blend interview, she shares that she and Jeff have a plan for a third Wonder Woman story that they don't know if they're going to use, but that she likes a lot, and they've collaborated on it, and that's moving forward. So that's confusing to me, because it's a little bit contradictory. She can, you know, feel free to choose to work with Jeff if she feels very comfortable with him. That's absolutely her prerogative. But that gut reaction,
it makes me question, like, who really then ruined theatrical cut, or like where exactly, like how. I mean, I guess we'll never really know. But if she's still working with Jeff Johns, to me, like, I trust Patty Jenkins, like, with my life. Like,
sure.
I feel like she probably wouldn't be working with him if she felt like he was somehow detrimental to Diana and the Diana that she knows and the Diana that she's trying to present to the world. So,
and one of the things about Jeff Johns is that he is a celebrated comic book writer. Like, he doesn't just come in and slash and burn and destroy the characters. He's actually written great character arcs for these characters in the comics. So yeah, that her comments there were extremely enlightening, and I don't know what to make of them yet. But it's another piece of the puzzle, isn't it, Hannah?
Yeah. So I guess one way you could say it. Well, Sean, is there anything else about Wonder Woman 1984 that you want to kind of tease out for Snyder fans to look forward to? Or have you said enough until we finally get to see it?
Well, I think it's great that after being deprived of the character for years, like you said, we're going to get a double dose of her from interpretations of two filmmakers who clearly love and respect who the character is, and specifically how Gal Gadot plays her. She's just phenomenal in the role.
She just is Wonder Woman.
It's really amazing. And in the Real One podcast interview, like, Patty tells a story about, because there are certain scenes in the movie, which I'm not giving away any sort of spoilers, but Wonder Woman shares scenes with children. There are children in them. And Jake Hamilton, my co-host, asked, like, what are those days like on set? What are kids' reactions to seeing her in costume? And it's almost like when someone gets granted the opportunity to play Santa, right? Like, they stay in character. And she said Gal is just so wonderful about staying in character and interacting with the kids and just living the part. And so I think you're going to get a ton more of that. For people who really love Diana and who want to see her treated properly, I think 1984 does that too. I also can't brag enough about the villains. The villains are phenomenal. And that's one great way to expand on your sequel. Like, clearly people are turning out for Wonder Woman. But Pedro Pascal as Max Lord is
love him.
phenomenal. And Kristen Wiig, while to me I thought she was an unexpected choice to try to play Cheetah, she's just great. She's great. So
That's
I almost
exciting.
left the movie. Yeah, I almost left the movie being more psyched about the villains, and I think fans are really going to dig it.
Ooh.
Also, there are a couple of huge surprises. Just huge surprises that I never thought we would see, and I can't wait for people to see it.
Don't say anymore.
No, that's it. I'm stopping right there.
Because if you guys are desperate for more Wonder Woman 1984 coverage, Sean is going to be doing a full spoiler-free review next week. I think that will drop on Tuesday, if I have the embargo date correct in my head. And we'll also be doing a lot of other follow-up angles and some more spoilery type stuff once everybody gets a chance to see it, hopefully. And of course, if you don't know, Sean and I put up new videos every week talking all things Zack Snyder's Justice League. So be sure to hit subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss them.